Hello and welcome to experiment number 3. So we just concluded experiment number 2 and we can see the output here over here for experiment number 2, and we will just go straight into experiment number 3 here. And as usual, first we confirm what configurations we have, as we have just finished wiping out the initial configurations that's experiment number 2 wrote on it. So we can see that no loopback configured again, show IP protocol, no protocol configured again. All right, so we go into router 2, show IP protocol, no protocol configured again, and show IP interface brief, no loopback interface configured again. And same thing on router 3, show IP protocol, no protocol configured, show IP interface brief, no loopback interface configured. And finally, show IP protocol for router 4 and show IP interface brief on router 4. So with this, we are good to go and start the experiment for number 3 experiment. So we launch bubbling, we press Y again, and then the prompt is being generated and sent over to ChatGPT. So once the playbook is generated, we will get a feedback from ChatGPT with the playbook, which we will then run on the network again to see what the outcome would be. So experiment 1 has been 100% successful. Experiment 2 has also been successful. So currently the accuracy rate has been 100%. Reliability has been 100%. We noticed that in experiment 2, ChatGPT was a bit creative. Rather than use the conventional method of configuration, it made use of Ginger template. So the playbook for router 1 is out. So we go into the console for router 1 and then execute the command with Y. So first, bubbling will try to log into router 1, okay, which has been done here, and then the loopback interface configured. Next, it will configure the OSPF protocol and then log out of the router, which is what it has just done. And it's generating the prompt for router 2 right now, which will be sent over to ChatGPT for generation of the playbook for router 2. While that is being done, let us confirm the configurations that have been done. Alright, so we have the 2 loopback interfaces now configured here. Then show IP protocol shows that the OSPF routing protocol has also been configured, and the networks we want have been configured on the network as well, on the router as well. So with this, we are good with router 1. The playbook generated, delivered the actual output that we expected on router 1. No additional feature was configured and nothing less was configured. So the playbook for router 2 is out. So we go into the console for router 2 and then execute the playbook on it. So loopback 0 will be configured first, after which loopback 1 will be configured. Then the OSPF routing protocol will be configured and followed by the EIGRP configuration. Then OSPF will be redistributed into EIGRP and EIGRP will be redistributed into OSPF, and bubbling will log out of the router. So we can see now that adjacency has been established between R1 and R2, which is an indication that all the networks that are supposed to be advertised on OSPF were well advertised. But let's just see what we have. So show IP protocol, permit me to enlarge this so that we can see it at a glance. OSPF configured with the two networks we want advertised, correctly advertised. And we have EIGRP also configured here with the networks we want advertised here as well. When we do show IP interface brief, we can see that the two loopback interfaces have been configured and they are both up. So this has been 100% successful as well. No added feature created and nothing less of our expectation was also configured. Now the playbook for router 3 is out, and we will just open up the console for router 3, ensure we are in it, and then execute the playbook on it. So first, again, bubbling logs into router 3. Next, it configures the loopback interfaces. After configuring the loopback interfaces, it configures EIGRP and then configures OSPF routing protocol. Next, it redistributes the OSPF protocol into EIGRP, OSPF networks into EIGRP, and then EIGRP into OSPF, after which it logs out of the router. And we can see over here that adjacency has been established between router 2 and router 3 on EIGRP, which is an indication that our routing protocols were rightly configured. But let us see what we have here. Okay, so we have EIGRP configured, and here we have the networks advertised as required. And for the OSPF, we also have OSPF configured and the networks advertised as required. We want to check the interfaces now, show IP interface brief, and we can as well see that the loopback interfaces were correctly configured as desired. So for R3 again, the configuration was well done and nothing more than what we expected was done. So the playbook for R4 is out. We log into R4, execute it, and then the first thing bubbling does again is try to log in by SSH into R4. After that, the loopback interfaces are configured, and then the OSPF configuration is done as well. So after that, it logs out of the router. We can see that adjacency has been established between R3 and R4 again, also indicating that our routing protocols were correctly configured. So we can just do show IP route at this point, and the expectation as always is that all the networks attached to R1, R2, R3 and R4 on this topology should be visible on the routing table for R4. So we can just quickly go through it. The first network we have here is 172.168.1.0, which is this network over here between the switch or the controller and R1. Next is 192.168.2.0, which is the network between R1 and R2. Then next we have 192.168.4.0, which is the network between R2 and R3. And next we have 192.168.6.0, which is a network between R3 and R4. Then the loopback interfaces are here. We have 10.1 and 20.1, which are these networks on router 1. Then we have 20.1 and 30.1, which are the networks on router 2. Then we have 40.1 and 50.1, which are the networks on 30 and 40, which are on router 2, then 50 and 60, which are on router 3. So all networks are reachable by R4. Now we expect the reverse for R1. Okay, when we do show IP route, we expect that all the networks between R3, R4 and R2 should be seen on the routing table for router 1, and that we can confirm here. So the first network here is 192.168.4.0, which is the network between R2 and R3. Next we have 192.168.6.0, which is between R3 and R4. Then we now have 192.168. Okay, so that is directly connected. All right, so next we have 192.168.40.0 and 50.0, which are oh sorry, the first is 30.0 discovered through OSPF, and then 40.0 which is redistributed between EIG, which is a redistributed network from EIGRP into OSPF, and they are attached to router 2, as we can see. Then we have 50 and 60, which are attached to router 3, and then we have 70 and 80, all right, over here, which are attached to router 4. So experiment 3 has been 100% a success, as well as our desire, our expectation was what was implemented on the network. Thank you so much for your time once again. This has taken us about 337 seconds in total, 29 seconds to execute the commands, and 342 seconds to generate the playbooks. Thank you so much for your time. See you in experiment number 4. Bye.